Hey there, Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back to another video. And if you are new here, my name is Hannah. I am a Western Practical Astrologer. Okay, so in today's video, we are going to be talking all about Mercury through the houses. Yes. So this is going to show the where. So make sure that you watch the Mercury through the signs video for more information about the how. So we're thinking about how you speak and how you learn. But then with the houses, this is more about where. Okay, so where do you speak? Where do you learn? Which areas of life there? Plus, we're going to throw in something extra for the where, for the houses. I want to touch on humor. I want to touch on laughter because Mercury is also about these things. Right. Before we do get into this, please make sure to comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and let me know, where is Mercury in your chart? Mercury for me is in Aquarius in the 5th house when we look to Placidus, but then when looking at whole sign, it is in Aquarius in the 6th house. All right, the Mercury houses. And if you are interested in booking a reading with me, then you can visit my website, hannahselsewhere.com. You can also find all of my astrology products over there. Plus, I gotta say, thank you so much to my patrons over at Patreon for all of your support. If you're interested in joining the Patreon, which is a great way to support the channel, you can do so by going to the link in the description box. So there is an episode over on my podcast, the Cosmic Check-In podcast, all about Mercury. So if you want more information about Mercury, what is Mercury, all about when it comes to your chart, what does Mercury represent in your chart, make sure that you listen to that episode. So just a quick overview here, just in case you missed it. I talked about this in the Mercury through the signs video, but we're going to go over it here. So Mercury represents how, the sign, and where, the house, you learn. So thinking about your learning and your communication style, how you speak. And listen, of course, when it comes to communication, it is important not only to speak and to share what we think, right? Sharing our thoughts there with Mercury, but it's also equally as important to listen, to gain that feedback from others. And then, of course, Mercury is about how we grasp information and make connections, how we really arrive to certain conclusions. Mercury is so much about our curiosity and our interest. So, which types of subjects, topics are you interested in? I mean, for me, Mercury is in Aquarius, like I said. Aquarius is connected with astrology and science. So I'm very fascinated by these things. Before we do move on, I just want to say, right, so touching on communication and learning, a person's communication style shows how they communicate and interact with others. So there are many types of communication styles, such as passive, assertive, passive-aggressive, and aggressive. And people can communicate in different ways based on many factors, such as their mood, the environment they're in, and past experiences. And there are other elements that can influence how we communicate. These include the person who is sharing the message, the person who is receiving the message, how the message is being channeled, and the message itself. Things like noise and feedback also matter. So understanding our communication style can really help us communicate effectively and be listened to. So when we explored Mercury through the signs, I touched on these different types of communication styles there. And then when we think about learning, A person's learning style describes the way different students learn. So the way we learn helps us process and retain information. So there are 4 main learning styles, which are visual, which is basically sight, kinesthetic, which is learning by doing, auditory, which is learning by listening, and then we see here writing and reading. Knowing our learning style can benefit us massively when it comes to new subjects and topics. So, again, think about Mercury through the signs, because over there I really explored those learning styles and communication styles. Radio, let's now dive in to Mercury through the houses. Yes, Mercury through the houses. First up, Mercury in the first house. Mercury in the first house, folks, your persona is shaped by your willingness to be curious and to learn new information. When introducing yourself to others, you can come across as engaging or as observant, as you share your many opinions and your ideas. Perhaps you are seen as being in your own head whilst processing and analyzing the environment you're in. Speaking with your hands or being mobile is likely, and you might also be quite quick with your answers and your comebacks. There is really a desire here to be heard and to be listened to when you share. However, disharmonious aspects to your Mercury can suggest insecurities or issues communicating. You might feel as if others are not listening to you. It can be perhaps difficult to share. But with self-awareness, you can deal with these challenges. So, this is where we want to think about the sign. So, like I was saying, as a reminder, the sign is going to show the how, the house is going to show the where. So, in the case of having Mercury in the first house, when we think about you being quick with your answers and your comebacks, well, if Mercury is in Gemini, if Mercury is in Aries, then yeah, you could perhaps be a lot quicker. But if maybe Mercury is in more of an earth sign or a water sign, there could be greater reflection there, greater contemplation present there too. And what I further want to mention is if you have a Virgo rising, right? So if Virgo is on the rising or Gemini is on the rising in your chart, you may relate to some of the information that I just said. But a couple of things matter with this. One thing would be you got to locate Mercury in the chart. So Mercury would then be your chart ruler. Locate Mercury in the chart and then see there what other information you can pull from that, and then bring it back to your identity, bring it back to how you approach new situations, your earliest development, your name, these types of things, all related to the first house, and your aims, your goals, etc. And the thing about the Gemini side of Mercury is Gemini is going to be a lot more witty, swift, and perhaps somewhat more chatty and engaging. Whereas the Virgo side of Mercury is going to take its time a lot more to be perhaps more observant. Observing, analyzing, really taking in the information deeply, and then even seeing how information can be applied practically. Also, touching on here the laughter stuff. So I want to talk about laughter today. I think that if you have Mercury in the first house, perhaps you can be seen as quite funny or as witty. Hey, even if it's Gemini or Virgo on the rising there, they both can be humorous in their own way, quick with their comebacks, right? But yes, if you've got Mercury in the first house, perhaps you're perceived by people as quite funny, maybe possibly as mischievous at times. All right, so now moving on to Mercury in the second house individuals. Okay, so if you have Mercury in the second house, your personal resources and income are shaped by your intellect and communicative skills. You might earn a living from the knowledge you teach or share. Advertising, marketing, podcasting, accounting, teaching, or editing are potential areas that help you earn a living. Or perhaps you have two or more incomes at once. You might value how analytical and logical you can be. You like being valued for your thoughts and for your opinions. Networking and exchanging ideas with others boost your self-esteem. However, disharmonious aspects to your Mercury can suggest irritations or inconsistencies regarding your income. Perhaps being heard really impacts your self-worth, right? So it matters to you then that people do hear you out. But you see, with self-awareness, you can deal with these challenges. Now, this is also where the sign comes in. So the sign is going to show the how. So if we think about here, the two or more incomes at once, if Mercury is in Sagittarius, for example, the two or more income stuff could be more related to publishing, journalism, broadcasting, reporting. This could further indicate the teaching stuff, travel, being a mentor, being a guide. But then let's say Mercury is in Leo. This could be more related to drama, entertainment, performance, right? Putting on a show. Even, hey, comedy could be a part of this with having either Mercury in Sagittarius or in Leo in the second house, possibly earning a living for your comical acts, for being funny. When we think about the laughter stuff related to, this video. But then let's say Mercury is in the second house and it's in Capricorn, right? You could more so earn a living for how you communicate business-wise, public speaking, hosting a seminar, hosting some sort of conference or a really significant business talk there. And if Gemini or Virgo rule that second house cusp for you, you could very well relate to some of the information that I have just said. But what is important to keep in mind is, where is Mercury in the chart? So locate Mercury and then bring it back to the second house. Mercury is going to provide you with more information about your resources, about your income, about your physical security there. And then as well, with the Gemini side of things, can suggest, you can be a bit more lighthearted, right? You may value being more lighthearted, whereas Virgo on the second house cusp, this is more about valuing doing things correctly and really paying attention to the facts and the details there. So, like I said, with humor, with laughter, yes, this is what I mentioned a moment ago. It could very well be that you earn money for being funny. It could even be earning money for your humorous posts on social media, for your humorous way of writing. You could be interested in writing a novel or, publishing your own book, but there are comical themes present there. Maybe for you as well, it's important that there's some type of humor amongst all of the earning stuff. You try to keep some type of humor present throughout your day as you are focusing on your resources. Okay, let's now move on to Mercury in the third house. If you have Mercury in the third house, your attitudes toward learning are shaped by how curious and engaged you are. When interested in a particular subject or area, you'll ask many questions. You'll conduct a ton of research, you'll take notes, you'll study like crazy. And in general, you want to be continuously mentally stimulated. Expressing your thoughts and learning from others means gathering even more information to add to your library of knowledge. Perhaps you're an excellent writer, researcher, teacher, investigator, or reporter. You might read often, and you essentially want to explore the world around you in all forms. However, disharmonious aspects to your Mercury can suggest mental or learning implications. Maybe you get distracted easily, as an example there, or there could be other sort of blockages or challenges present. But naturally, with self awareness, you deal with these challenges. Moreover, we want to think about the sign. So the sign is going to show the how. So let's say, for instance, Mercury is in Pisces in the third house. Yes, whilst you may be very interested in learning and doing all of your research, there's still this more sort of intuitive way that you go about learning. And it's almost like you need to be in the flow, right? There can be a lack of consistency, which I'm not saying is a bad thing. Maybe for you, it is about, okay, well, how am I being moved here when it comes to what I'm learning? Or you may be really interested in, like fantasy novels, right? Novels that can help you escape, information that can even help you escape, or information that's very symbolic. But then let's say Mercury is in, well, let's even just go with Virgo, right? The opposite sign. I mean, if Mercury is in Virgo, then you may be very studious, and it's like, right, okay, I want to make sure that I'm keeping up to date with things. I'm reviewing things, doing all the refreshers, taking those courses, to keep myself updated, right? Yeah, and you may also be very good at kind of making things more practical. And maybe that's important for you. It's like, this needs to make sense in a practical way, and then you leave the rest. And also, if Gemini or Virgo rule that third house cusp for you, you gotta locate where is Mercury. Okay, you may resonate with some of the information that I just said, you might, but also locate Mercury in the chart and then bring it back to, okay, what is Mercury saying about your learning? What is it saying about how you think as well? And in terms of laughter, humor, I mean, you could come across as a rather sort of funny individual, especially around your neighbors, with your siblings, or hey, maybe it's that some of your siblings or your neighbors are more of those funny, witty people. And there's greater engagement there because you can have a laugh, you can have banter together. Or perhaps, which this may be a really silly example, but perhaps you could be in the car and you're quite funny with yourself. Or if someone is in the passenger seat with you, or you're just driving with someone, you like to have that banter, right? Because of course the third house is kind of like, it's related to commuting and vehicles. But even, let's just even go with you visiting comedy bars or entertainment places where there is this feeling of everyone's having a good time and it's fun and we're laughing together. Okay, so let's now move on to Mercury in the fourth house. Mercury in the fourth house individuals. Your living situation and your emotional well-being are shaped by your inner the inner conversation there. So what is happening within you, and also family conversations. So thinking about how you talk to yourself and then how you communicate with your family. Perhaps you'll look up your ancestry, or you'll show an interest in knowing more about your family's past. Maybe that is really important to you, actually, especially if Mercury is in Cancer, right? Because, of course, as we've been saying, Mercury shows the how. So, Mercury being in Cancer could very well indicate that you're someone who likes to research your family lineage, the family tree. You're really interested in that type of stuff. And maybe, subjects like genealogy and archaeology, history, these subjects may be subjects that you research. And it could be that your primary caregiver played a role in forming your intellect. They really made a huge impact on you. They might have been bright and clever themselves, or perhaps you're very chatty with a specific primary caregiver. This could be your mother, this could be your father, and a guardian as well. And you also prefer to be mentally stimulated at home. Yes, I mean, you could be someone who there's always something on, right? There's always the television on, there's music on, or you're carrying your phone from one room to the next, and you're perhaps very comfortable with reading it and just being in your own sort of comfortable space. Right? I imagine you being curled up on the sofa with a good book, with a good read. And then again, the sign matters, right? Because, I mean, Mercury being in Sagittarius could suggest that the types of novels and books that you read about, they're related to religion or related to world affairs. You may watch the news quite a lot there. But then let's say Mercury is in Aquarius. You may enjoy reading up on different conspiracy theories or just global matters that are a little bit more different, or global matters that make you think differently. Even looking up things to do with space or aliens. Do aliens exist, right? Yes. Ultimately, you gain a ton of knowledge in your private space. However, disharmonious aspects to your Mercury can suggest chaotic or highly disagreeable discussions with family members. There could be arguments that happen there. Communicating your emotions can also be kind of challenging, or it could perhaps be a situation where everybody within the family is like, I need to communicate my feelings, but no one's actually listening to each other because everyone's so concerned about my feelings. I hope you understand what I mean there. And at the same time, with self-awareness, you can deal with these challenges, okay? And moreover, if Gemini rules the fourth house cusp or the IC, or if Virgo rules the fourth house cusp or the IC, you could very well relate to some of the information that I just shared there. Naturally, Gemini is going to be more of this chatty, lighthearted side of it, whereas Virgo is going to be, I suppose, a bit more perfectionistic and put together, if you will. And moreover, you want to think about where Mercury is. Locate Mercury in the chart and then bring that information back to, okay, what about the family stuff? What about conversations there going on within the home? Plus, as for the humor, right? This is a theme that we're going with. Humor, laughter. Yes, this could be that you come from a pretty funny family. You come from a family where there is banter and people can laugh together, or it's that you really appreciate that, or maybe that's what you need emotionally. Is you need a little bit of laughter. I sort of visualize you being the types of people, if you're really feeling a certain way, and maybe you could be low, you could be a little bit sad, but then it's sort of that fun, it's that laughter, it's the entertainment that can cheer you up, right? You could just turn on the television and it's a comedy or whatever, or it's just something that you find to be comical, then you're laughing. Yes, your emotional needs could very well be tied in with laughter. But again, remember the sign matters because that's going to show the high. Okay, let's now move on to Mercury in the fifth house. Mercury in the fifth house individuals. So, exploring my chart using the Placidus system, Mercury is in Aquarius in the fifth house. I want to say that. Right. Your self-expression and your individuality are shaped by your interests in learning and communicating. You share information creatively, and when you speak, it's as if you want to take center stage. You can be quite performative and dramatic with your words. Also, you might enjoy storytelling or just sharing your own experiences. And being authentic with your opinions is important to you too. Maybe you set out to impress others with how you convey a message. And when you're fascinated by a subject, it might become a part of your identity, a part of your personality, maybe. But you'll also want to create your own individual sort of spin. Now, with that, the sign, we got to think about the sign here. So, as I was saying there, Mercury is in the fifth house in my chart looking at the Placidus system, and that's kind of why I was laughing a moment ago, because with being quite dramatic or performative, or I want to take center stage, I can I can feel that a little bit. But then again, Mercury is in Aquarius, and so there is a level of detachment, I think, for me, where if I do recognize myself maybe being a little bit too dramatic there, I can bring it back. And then as well, if I do find myself talking about me too much, then I can, bring it back to, okay, others. Okay. So here we go, back to others. Let's say, for example, Mercury is in Scorpio in the fifth house. Well, you may be very focused in on, okay, I am so interested in this creative project, and perhaps it involves investigation, or it involves sort of occult-like subjects, or just diving deep into things, and your focus is all in. And it's hard to shake your focus as well. But you can just be so involved, like so engrossed in that creative thing. And then also in terms of storytelling, as you do go to tell a story, there can be this control that you have, this controlling presence, which I'm not saying is a bad thing, by the way. It's just like you hold that space. And then even with Mercury being in Capricorn, kind of going off this, there is that authority, right? Yes, speaking with authority whilst telling a story. So those would be just a couple of examples. So again, Mercury is going to show the high. However, disharmonious aspects to your Mercury can suggest trouble articulating yourself the way you would like, or feeling dissatisfied with your creative efforts. With self-awareness, you can deal with these challenges. So following on from this one, whenever I explore my Placidus chart, Mercury is in the fifth house, but so is Saturn when looking to the Placidus chart. And Mercury's conjunct Saturn, and I can relate to trouble articulating myself. It has taken me many years, for instance, to really grasp what I want to say when it comes to astrology. It has taken me a very long time to convey the information. Yes. So, just wanted to share that. Plus, if Gemini rules the fifth house cusp, or Virgo rules the fifth house cusp in your chart, you may relate to some of the information that I just shared there. But what you want to do is you want to locate where is Mercury, okay? Locate Mercury in the chart, bring it back then, bring that information back to how you express yourself. The performance stuff, the taking center stage stuff, right? It's always thinking about the bigger picture here too, right? And lastly, laughter, humor. Oh, I love watching funny shows. For instance, me and my partner are rewatching the entire US Office series. Absolutely love it. Just thinking about it makes me laugh. It's just the dryness. It's how dry it is, how awkward it is, but yet how funny it is. I love Steve Carell, the way he lands jokes, and he's just in character so perfectly. I think he also has a Virgo rising, by the way, and then he's got a sun in Leo and his moon in Pisces. So he really is good at taking you into that fantasy world. Yeah, he's a great actor, I think. So if you have Mercury in the fifth house, it could be that you appreciate art or film or music that it carries some laughter to it. I mean, there's certain times when I'm listening to a song and I just start laughing because I have all these visions, all these images in my head. And yeah. So yeah, I hope you can maybe see how creatively laughter could be involved. And hey, also just one more thing for you, Mercury in the fifth house folks. Perhaps what is important to you when it comes to dating and romance, right? Romantic partners, fifth house stuff, is just having a good laugh with your partner. I'm so lucky because I have a partner who's got Moon and Venus in Gemini, so yay. Anyway, okay, let's now move on to Mercury in the sixth house. So, in using the whole sign system, Mercury is in the sixth house of my chart. Right. If you have Mercury in the sixth house, your working life is shaped by your interest in problem solving and knowing how things function. Your day job may quite literally involve researching, advertising, reporting, writing, or teaching. And in the workplace, you can be quite chatty. Perhaps you often exchange ideas with coworkers and you're willing to learn from their perspectives, or you might be good at multitasking and figuring out how to improve things. Maybe you also overwork yourself with too many projects and too many tasks. There can be too much multitasking going on for you, but it's also likely that you value upskilling, right? Upskilling intellectually, like learning new skills, developing your skills, just wanting to improve there. And when sharing information, you prefer to be practical in your approach. However, disharmonious aspects to your Mercury can suggest tension, worry, too much stress, and with greater awareness, with self-awareness, you can deal with these challenges. So to follow on from this, we want to think about the sign, okay? The sign is going to show us the how. So when we think about here, the stuff to do with exchanging ideas with coworkers, learning from their perspectives, right? Let's say that Mercury is in Libra. This could very well be heightened. There really is this, okay, right, getting that feedback, teamwork, we're in this together, this type of attitude within work, at the workplace. But then let's say let's say Mercury actually is in Aquarius, right? So like I say, Mercury's in Aquarius in the sixth house using the whole sign system for me. And there is elements then of that exchange, togetherness, learning from coworkers, but it's also bring it back to, okay, well, I also really want to think outside of the box or try out different strategies and approaches there. Plus, when we think about the actual sort of job that you do, the sign is also going to matter, right? Because, I mean, let's say, for instance, Mercury is in Taurus in the sixth house. Perhaps the researching or the advertising, it's more associated with food or nutrition or maybe even real estate, property, or let's say Mercury is in Cancer. Perhaps there is a greater focus on hospitality there, caregiving roles, or when we think about the writing or the teaching stuff, perhaps such things are linked to history or the past. Plus, if Gemini or Virgo rule the sixth house cusp for you, you may relate to some of the information that has been shared, okay? But we want to think about where is Mercury located. Locate Mercury in the chart and then bring it back to the sixth house for more information about your work, your job, also your health, okay? For more information about health, more information about how you approach your everyday task, your productivity, these types of things, time management, all of it. Yes, Mercury can provide more information. As for the laughter, humor, well, you could very well be quite funny and engaging with your coworkers. Maybe you work with colleagues, you even hire employees that are quite funny. And hey, another possibility is it's important to you that you take time out of your day to have that sort of that humor involved, you know. Yeah, maybe that's important to you. Just that little piece of the day, so you can do that. Now, let's now move on to Mercury in the seventh house, folks. So, if Mercury is in the seventh house in your chart, your relationships are shaped by your ability to relate and exchange knowledge. You want to connect with your partners and close friends over similar interests. And you're also willing to have opposing ideas and opinions too, right? You want to gain that feedback and see, okay, where do we differ as well? Maybe you do well in business partnerships that involve sales, marketing, or media. And you're also typically attracted to potential partners who are clever, bright, fascinating to talk to. Hey, funny, witty partners. You want your mind to be stimulated in relationships. You value that mental stimulation. It is also likely that you depend on others to reassure you in discussions. You might even subconsciously want others to make decisions for you, right? So we want to think about the sign Mercury is in, because the sign is going to show us the how. So let's say, for instance, Mercury is actually in Aries in the seventh house. Well, it could actually be that you tend to attract potential partners who are very honest and open and raw, right? They're quite direct about what they want, what they're doing, etc. And maybe that being reflected back to you kind of indicates that you can be like that, or you can also just be very like, right, yep, this is what I'm doing, this is what I want. But then again, there can be potential the potential friction and arguments there with that kind of Mars feel, seeing as it's Aries. But then let's say Mercury is in, I'm trying to think of who we have not done yet. So we've done Aries, bit of Taurus, Gemini. Let's go with Leo again. Well, as for the sales and the media stuff, you know, business-wise, this stuff could be heavily about entertainment or drama. Could even be a situation where you're teaching children, right? There's one-to-one teaching going on there. So yes, make sure that you do consider the sign, because the sign is going to show the how. And I further want to mention that disharmonious aspects to your Mercury can suggest unfair conversations within relationships or trouble listening. With self-awareness, you can deal with these challenges. So even on that note, if Gemini or Virgo are ruling the 7th house cusp there, right? There is the Gemini descendant, there is the Virgo descendant. You may relate to some of the information that I just shared, but naturally with Gemini, it's more of that lighthearted, chitty-chatty side of it, whereas with Virgo, it's more matter of fact and practical. And what you want to do is locate where Mercury is in the chart, because by locating Mercury, you can then get more information and bring it back to, right, what about relationships? What about how you exchange ideas and exchange knowledge and form connections within relationships and partnerships there? More information can be brought back to that point. And I even want to say, as for the humor stuff and laughter stuff, yes, I think if you've got Mercury in the 7th house in general, humor could be really important to you. And I did touch on that already. So humor when it comes to potential partners, right? A partner who can make you laugh. That may be something that you're deeply, deeply attracted to. Or it could be here that even with close friends, right? Close friends where there is this laughter involved, and maybe as well some type of laughter involved when it comes to business. There's a bit of banter. Maybe taking, business partnerships super seriously isn't something that you're into. Naturally, I mean, if Saturn is a part of this, it could be a different story. But I hope that you get what I mean there. Okay, let's now move on to Mercury in the 8th house. So Mercury in the 8th house, individuals, your intimate relationships and your transformations are shaped by your ability to dig deep and to investigate what is beneath the surface. You pick up on subconscious interactions between others. You can really read the room. And you're curious about the unknown. You might be willing to talk about taboo or occult-like subjects. I mean, if Mercury is in Scorpio, this is enhanced here. You're willing to get into those discussions. But then maybe Mercury is in Pisces. Again, could be a similar thing, but those conversations could also be largely about the, those esoteric worlds. Again, just diving more into that, but even taking it a step further into, okay, well, existence, what is reality? Why are we here? The meaning of life. Are we real? Is this real life? Okay. And you may make for an excellent problem solver or researcher. Hearing about other people's traumas as well does not scare you. Maybe you're also willing to share your own, but only with those you deeply, truly trust. Yes. You may be great at kind of listening to other people's secrets and other people's heavy issues, but you may not be very quick to share your own. But again, trust is essential. Discussing deeper topics creates greater intimacy. Okay. Now, again, the sign matters because the sign is going to show the how. You see, if maybe Mercury is in Gemini, such matters may not actually be all of that deep or intimate. There could be a slight level of being superficial. And it's not to say that this is a bad thing. I just think it's more about, you can have those moments of keeping it superficial, and maybe that is what's important to you. But then just as much, there's an other part of it, right? Gemini's the twins, there's an other part of it. There are times when you can go deep. But maybe you just prefer, for your own sanity, for your own mental well-being, to keep things light when you need to, right? That's just a possibility. And disharmonious aspects to your Mercury can suggest paranoia or being overly controlling about what you share, or even being overly suspicious about other people and what they're sharing, right? You could even have these thoughts of, other people are trying to manipulate me, manipulate the conversation here. But of course, with self-awareness, you can deal with these challenges Plus, hey, if people are trying to manipulate and stuff like this, you can be quite good at detecting that, especially I think if Mercury is in more of a water sign, because there's more of that emotional piece communicated there with Mercury being in a water sign. Also, if Gemini or Virgo rule the eighth house cusp for you, you may relate to some of the information that I just shared. But what you want to do is you want to locate where is Mercury, right? Locate Mercury in the chart and then bring it back to the investigations and the research. Even relate that stuff back to shared resources, shared finances, this type of stuff, because the eighth house rules these areas too. Even on that note, with Mercury being in the eighth house in terms of shared resources and shared finances, right, you could possibly be quite rational or logical. You prefer to be logical when dealing with those matters. And, okay, make this a bit more lighter. Humor, laughter. Hey, here's just an idea. You might be someone who possesses like this dark humor. Or do you know what? It could even just get to a point where you are able to laugh off your own losses. Yeah. But hey, at the same time, it could be that such humor sort of covers up something deeper within you. Possibly. Or when it comes to intimacy, closeness, humor. You want that humor. You want to feel like there is a connection present and you can just laugh, right? That connection is about laughter. Okay, let's now move on to Mercury in the ninth house individuals. Right, so if Mercury is in the ninth house in your chart, your worldview is shaped by your ability to become curious about life. It is likely that you often think about your meaning and why you're here, constantly questioning. You might have many questions about religion, philosophy, and politics. You want to know the why. It's like, why? Where did this come from? What's going on here? You're willing to listen to other people's beliefs and why they believe in the things they do. But it's also important to you that other people hear you out as you share. Perhaps you enjoy learning about different cultures and ways of life, and you're continuously sort of exploring the world around you and expanding your mind. Traveling to faraway destinations is likely because you want to experience new places. You could even very well have siblings in other countries around the world, right? Because Mercury can sort of point towards siblings there. Naturally, we want to think about the sign Mercury is in. So if Mercury is in Aries, you're more of an independent explorer, more of an independent thinker and learner, and you really base your own philosophies upon, okay, what you think. But then let's say Mercury is in Taurus, right? This could be more of a slow and steady thing. And maybe when it comes to formulating what your beliefs are, it's like, right, it needs to be grounded within reality. Like I need to see it. I need to feel it. It needs to be very present with me. But then let's say Mercury is actually in Pisces, right? This stuff is going to be, well, much more abstract and not so rooted in reality at times, and more so about, well, how does this feel? What is the hidden meaning here when I think about this, right? Even Mercury being in Aquarius could be greater thoughts about society and why did this culture come to be, and how does that connect in with this other culture over here, and trying to really recognize those bigger themes at play, and even being somewhat more scientific about the whole process. Okay. So, yes, the sign is going to be so much about the how. Plus, disharmonious aspects to Mercury can suggest being overly preachy or thinking you know it all. And with self awareness, you can deal with these challenges. Moreover, right, if Gemini or Virgo rule that ninth house cusp for you, you may relate to some of the information that I just shared. But for you, you want to think about where is Mercury? Locate Mercury in the chart and then bring it back to your worldviews, your beliefs, higher education as well, right? That could be a rather important thing if you have Mercury in the ninth house, because it could very well be that you went to university, you went to college, you really value higher education, getting an education, but the sign could also show up as the how, right? If Mercury is in Leo, for instance, this could be more of you getting a degree in, um, drama, or more of a creative within more of a creative field, or a more of a creative qualification is gained there. Or let's say Mercury is in Cancer, this could be much more related to history or archaeology there, or medical, working within the medical industry, right? Getting an education when it comes to these areas. Yes. And humor, laughter. Perhaps you enjoy the banter and the laughter from the relationships that you have with students, right? So if you think about going to university, getting a degree, what have you, maybe you were quite like a funny person, or you were surrounded by people who were quite funny and engaging, or having professors or mentors that are quite funny. Maybe that's important to you, to have that kind of that banter with certain professors and teachers. Or you know what? Maybe traveling brings out your funny side. You're able to laugh things off a lot more whenever you're traveling. Okay, let's now move on to Mercury in the 10th house individuals. Right, if you've got Mercury in the 10th house, your greatest achievements and your public persona are shaped by your intellectual interests. You'll share new information, excuse me. You'll share new information with the public and you'll teach them new things. You show dedication to the likes of writing, reading, researching, reporting, or marketing. Your career might even involve these things too. Now, again, this is important to then think about the sign. So, the sign is going to show the how. If Mercury is in Gemini in the 10th house, these things that I talk about, right, dedication to writing or reading or researching, reporting, very evident there. Again, it does matter based on your chart, naturally. Your chart always comes first. I want to say that. But let's say Mercury is in Scorpio. This is really about getting into the depths. This is knowing your stuff on a very deep level, and having those tools, and maybe spending a very long time really getting into all corners, right? Making sure that basically all areas are covered when it comes to research, right? Or, hey, perhaps such matters are related to crime, learning about criminal activity, or how your greatest achievements are more related to criminal activity, and the facts and the information that you learn there. Psychology could be a big part of this as well if you've got Mercury and Scorpio. So yes, the sign is going to be really important there. Your career might also involve, juggling a couple of different sort of tasks or responsibilities too. There could be a lot of multitasking involved within your career. Then again, it could be that you sort of juggle two roles at one time there. And there is a desire to feel successful when it comes to communication. You might influence society with the words you say, and it is likely that you are recognized for your knowledge and for your teachings. Perhaps you're open to learning from members of authority, or you really want to learn really from members of authority, from experts, from professionals. However, disharmonious aspects to your Mercury can suggest doubting your potential or speaking mindlessly in front of the public. So with self-awareness, you can deal with these challenges. And if Gemini rules the 10th house cusp or the midheaven, or if Virgo rules the 10th house cusp or the midheaven, you may relate to some of the information that I just shared there. Naturally, it is about locating where is Mercury, right? Mercury in the chart is going to provide you with more information about these intellectual achievements of yours. So I'll give you an example here. Gemini is on the midheaven, it's on the 10th house cusp in my chart, and then Mercury is in Aquarius in the 6th house using the whole sign system. So basically, the research and the learning that I'm doing within my job, which is thinking about what I'm doing right now, is being added then to, okay, a bigger thing, right? It's being added to my long-term achievements, my long-term success. And the way I kind of view my YouTube channel is I'm building. I am continuously adding to it. I'm building on that information. But then Mercury, using the Placidus system, it's in the 5th house. So maybe, yeah, that highlights the elements of entertainment or being creative. So yes, make sure that you are locating Mercury for more information about these intellectual achievements. And as for the laughter stuff, the humor stuff, it could be that you're great at making your audience laugh. Maybe public speaking is something you do, and within that, there are some humorous sort of things thrown in. Maybe the sign also matters. I mean, if Mercury's in Capricorn, you could be a bit more dry when it comes to your humor, I guess. Or if it's in Aquarius, same sort of thing. Yes, so you could very well bring that laughter to the public, and maybe you're even known for being quite a humorous person or a witty person, right? Because the 10th house is about reputation. Moving on then to Mercury in the 11th house. If Mercury is in the 11th house in your chart, your friendships and your attitudes towards society are shaped by your new discoveries and by your collective views. You tend to question the status quo and challenge authority. You're willing to share your thoughts about politics, humanity, movements, causes. Perhaps you're a part of a cause, or you possess a few non-conforming ideas about how things are run. And you might connect with people who are like-minded, but you're also open to being challenged. Your friends may be quite chatty or intelligent, or you bring different perspectives that make other people think differently. So again, we want to think about the sign. So let's say Mercury is in Leo in the 11th house, right? The sign is going to show the how. If Mercury is in Leo in the 11th house, yes, if you manage to get other people to think differently, right? So you share a certain perspective within the group and other people think differently because of that, that can be huge for like your ego, or just makes you feel good, right? You feel seen, you feel recognized. But then let's say Mercury is in Virgo in the 11th house there. Perhaps the clubs, the groups that you're a part of, where there is this exchanging of ideas and opinions and everything like this. Well, perhaps these matters are more sort of specific, right? There's a specific niche, or you're really wanting to sort of solve problems or come up with solutions. There's perhaps more strategy involved there as well. And actually, making use of what is being said, being practical. However, disharmonious aspects to your Mercury can suggest trouble listening in groups or feeling alone with your thoughts. So, with self-awareness, you can perhaps deal with these challenges. And if Gemini or Virgo are ruling the 11th house cusp within your chart, you could very well relate to this information, okay? But for you, just a reminder, Gemini is going to represent more of that lighthearted, chit-chatty, just chatting, learning for the sake of it type of stuff. So that side of Mercury. Whereas Virgo is going to be much more methodical, thorough, planned out. Yes, matter of fact, perfectionistic. But ultimately, there's big themes here to do with communicating within groups here. And I also want to mention, if Gemini or Virgo do rule the 11th house cusp, locate Mercury. By locating Mercury in your chart, you can gain more information and bring it back to those collective views and challenging the status quo, challenging authority. As for laughter, humor, yes, you could very well be part of movements, groups, clubs, social circles, friendships, where there is banter, there is laughter. You could even be that comical or comedic individual within the group. Public speaking could be big for you, but there's a level of humor present there. Getting on stage and people laughing at your jokes, especially if Mercury is in Sagittarius, for example. Or what, it could be that you want to bring humor to humanity. You want to bring humor to society. Thinking about the challenges that the collective go through, you may really appreciate then being that person who can make another person laugh, right? You can bring some type of lightheartedness to the equation. Okay, lastly then, Mercury in the 12th house, individuals, yes. If you have Mercury in the 12th house, your attitudes towards spirituality are shaped by your private inner voice, the inner conversation, and by the research you perform behind the scenes. Maybe you learn better when you're alone, or you absorb information easier when you use symbolism, or whenever you listen to music. It's likely that listening to music or journaling can help you focus. There's an interest in escaping into your imagination, right? You might also analyze your dreams. It's like, what does this mean? What does this mean? Reading in solitude can be therapeutic, and you're fascinated by all things fantasy related, esoteric, spiritual, and being subconsciously guided toward a path of reading or writing or reporting or teaching is likely, okay? So we want to think about the sign. So which sign is Mercury in, because it's going to show the how. So let's say, for instance, Mercury actually is in Pisces. This could very well heighten what I just said. It is about, yes, you're interested in things that are more spiritual, things that are more fantasy related. Could be film, possibly being interested in photography. Or let's say, for instance, Mercury is in Libra. There could be a greater focus there on the real story of relationships and the symbolism and the hidden meanings, and being fascinated by the feelings involved, the feeling tone within relationships, right? It's that pull, that push and pull, that attraction piece that could really fascinate you. But then let's say Mercury is in Gemini, right? And for you, there's just this endless stream of information to learn about, and you're so curious about all things spiritual. Yeah, you may take on many courses and many programs there. However, disharmonious aspects to your Mercury can suggest trouble communicating or feeling, well, misheard, misunderstood quite a bit. And so with self-awareness, you can, of course, deal with these challenges. Plus, if Gemini or Virgo rule the 12th house cusp for you, You may relate to some of the information that has just been said, but you also want to locate where is Mercury, right? Really, where is Mercury within the chart? Because locating Mercury is going to provide more information there about this behind the scenes stuff that we're talking about. And as for humor and laughter, you could very well just make yourself laugh quite a bit whenever you're alone. Whenever you're in your own space, whenever you're in your own solitude, there could be just little things that you do and you laugh. It's like you you may not necessarily, be intentional about it. It's just little things. And there could be this real sort of curiosity that moves you. What I'm kind of visualizing here, if you've got Mercury in the 12th house, again, Gemini, Virgo, you could relate, but what I'm visualizing here is you being like Alice from Alice in Wonderland, and you're just following the white rabbit. Like, oh, where is the white rabbit going? And you don't know where the white rabbit is going, but you're just so intrigued, you're so interested. But that is like it's humorous in a way. It's funny. Yes. And hey, you know what? It could be that the fantasy related stuff or the music or the journaling that you do, those things can be humorous too. Those things can make you smile at times. Okay. So this has been all of the Mercury houses, Mercury through the houses, everyone. Thank you all so much for watching today. And again, I want to say thank you so, so much to my patrons over at Patreon for all of your support. If you would like to join the Patreon, you can do so by going to the link in the description. With that, thank you all for listening. If you want to book a reading with me, you can do so by going to hannahselsewhere.com. And if you really enjoyed today's video, you can always buy me a coffee. Of course, there is no pressure to do anything, but these are just the different options available. Again, thank you all so much for watching. I hope that you did find it to be helpful, to be useful. Make sure to comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff to keep up to date with more videos from myself, and let me know where is Mercury within your chart. And I will talk to you all in the next video. Bye!